get your steaming hot mugs of backup news ready, because the backup is where we talk about the most hard-hitting news of the week. And as usual, the Back podcast and backup is brought to you by hero pocketeer Tim from the Learn Programming Academy. Get your exclamation mark Tims out in the chat, because the Learn Programming Academy offers classes covering the entire range of programming that are easy to watch for all skill levels, and they're almost all $20 or less. Head to lpa.dev/backpocket to download the custom backpocket info guide on everything Tim has to offer and become the coding genius you didn't know you always were.
Get your steaming hot exclamation mark Tims out in the chat. I thought you were going there.
Get him out in the chat. I saw just someone in the chat. And
is Nick using the wrong mic? Did you
Nick's
see
so
that?
Loud? No, I did. I no. Microphone fine.
Okay, cool.
Questionable.
Am I coming in hot?
It's been boosted by like 30 dB since we last spoke on this. But we're good.
That's horrible.
I've mixed your way down.
And I'll distract by saying Miss Silver asked that my beard seems brighter than usual, and have I put highlights in it? No, Miss Silver, those are grey hairs. Those are the natural highlights that I'm now getting these days. So thanks for noticing.
I did because I haven't seen some of my friends in a very long time. One of them sent me. We were chatting yesterday, texting each other, and he sent me a picture of himself, and he's
naked?
like. Well, actually, I think he was naked, because he definitely wasn't wearing a shirt. But he legit is going like full grey. Yeah, and right. He's my age, and I was like, he looks great. Like, I think I love grey hair in men and women. I think grey's a super cool color. But I was just like, I looked at it, and it was just a real shock to go, oh my goodness, Ben, we're old.
That's how you go grey. You get shocked, and you just go like overnight. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm old. Boom. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
My best man was going grey in high school and is now like full grey.
Oh, yeah, he's got like that salt and peppery look still.
He's more salt than pepper now. He's way more salt than pepper.
Yeah, okay.
Is this news?
He looks good though.
Yeah, this is news. I mean, Ben didn't have grey hair a couple of weeks ago, so it is by definition.
This is hard.
Yeah. But let's get into much more depressing news as we start off with our first story, and that is something that I'm sure everyone watching and listening knows. But to confirm, PAX Australia 2021 is cancelled.
Confirmed
the in-person event. PAX is moving to an online format, but the in-person show is not going ahead. We found this out very early last week. I think it was almost immediately after we finished. Was it on? It was on Tuesday.
It was Tuesday, I think. Yeah.
So you can say immediately after we bought our booth and bought our sign for the back booth.
But the PAX Australia team tweeted out an update. It is with a heavy heart that today we announced the postponement of PAX Australia 2021. At the start of the year, we were optimistic that we'd all be able to come together in person this October. We've been working hard with our partners and exhibitors to deliver the best possible version of PAX Australia. But due to the ongoing impact of COVID-19 in Australia, the next edition of PAXAus will now take place in 2022. And they go on to thank everybody who's been working with them. They'll be doing PAX Online. Tickets will be refunded, and they hope that you can get your accommodation fixed as well.
Sensible.
Pretty depressing news for everybody.
Depressing but sensible. Like, it's the right thing to do. And I can imagine for the people organising it, there's been a lot of doubt whether or not like they should pull the trigger on a lot of things, and I can imagine while it's super depressing and it sucks, I'm sure there'll be a bit of relief for people knowing that what they had to, like the amount of organization that needs to go into this, and doing it all on a knife's edge kind of thing would have been even more stressful. So I'm glad there's a decision. I'm not glad it's this one, I think. So yeah, I'm sure, the PAX Online, people streaming and being connected online will find ways to still have some semblance of enjoyment around this kind of time again. And gamers are so positive in that sense that I think I will. But yeah, this sucks. We were really looking forward to this, weren't we?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's super disappointing. We were like, we obviously had as far as pandemics go, Australia had a reasonably good year last year. We came through. Melbourne maybe would feel otherwise, but they fought in the right ways and they got control of it. New South Wales is out of control at the moment. And there's a number of factors playing into that. But the goal at the moment for everyone in lockdown is seeing those vaccination numbers go up and up and up and up and up until we get to the point where there's enough vaccinated people out and, allowed to go out and about, that the, transfer is not so much of an issue. And if we were at maybe 80% vaccinated in the country come October, this thing could potentially have still gone ahead. But we're nowhere near that. And so there's no point. It's the safest play for sure is to shut it down and let's reset for next year and hopefully have a good one next year.
And from a publisher, developer, exhibitor perspective, you have to put so much money into this stuff quite far ahead. And we know from just general chats with people in the industry and stuff that everyone has been like, we don't know when to commit to this thing because it still just feels like it's on a knife edge. We don't know what we're going to do. And the later you leave it, the more expensive that stuff gets. But then obviously once you do pull the trigger and go, okay, we're building this thing and bringing these people in and blah, blah, blah. And then that gets cancelled and all that money's just gone. So yeah, it's kind of sad on everyone's behalf. Gus?
I wanted to add as well, I'm glad that there hasn't been some kind of scrapping together of a half-assed version that might have put people and maybe the public image of gamers at risk as well, of saying let's try and do something anyway. And then, you can just see the headline of some kind of version of it where things go a bit wrong. And I'm just glad we haven't...
Nerds leave their basement and get everyone sick. It's like, go fuck yourself.
Exactly. So I'm glad that hasn't come out of it as well. And as I said, there's the opportunity for us to do online events and to manage this stuff from homes as well, I think, and still be connected pretty well. So as a community, I'm sure we'll still be positive in that sense, but not positive for COVID.
I like that.
That's me signing off from my channel.
I like as well that I made up a Telegraph that I'm sure the Daily Telegraph headline that the Daily Telegraph would run, and then I got angry at the Daily Telegraph for publishing a headline that I made up in my own head. But they would have done it. They're just like that. That's just how they work.
They're usually in their basements, but today they're out in droves. Mario.
He can't I was going to be he can't fix this leak, and anyway, it doesn't matter. We don't work for the Daily Telegraph yet. But the other part of this obviously is that it is going online. If you look at it that way, there's more opportunities for people to be able to get some stuff if they couldn't have traveled to PAX. Tickets sold out very quickly. So, it is opening that up to a lot more people. So, yeah, hopefully the online thing goes smoothly. They definitely would have looked at last year and learned a bunch. A lot of stuff worked last year and be able to refine that process as well and sort of put on a good show for this year. And then next year, we will all get together again.
The plan.
Dream big.
We did actually get our the refund for 50% of our accommodation, and then we got that a couple of days ago, and the guy is like, "I'll give you the other 50% on the day when you definitely can't come." It's like, dude, when you're coming, give us the money.
No,
it's so awkward that we booked accommodation to stay at my parents' place because they're being really tight with that.
I know, they're just really playing hardball. Okay, let's move on now to something a little more positive, and that was Nintendo Indie World. There was an Indie World showcase late last week. Saw that Thursday morning, actually. And there were some announcements coming out from that. A lot of games that I think most games we already knew about and were coming, and quite a few games dropped on the day, Boyfriend Dungeon and Axiom Verge 2 among them. But there were a couple of others that we didn't speak about on Thursday that did catch our attention. Gus, do you want to kick us off with what caught your eye from the showcase?
Yeah, totally. These were all really good. I was really impressed by pretty much every game that they mentioned. The one that got my attention first and foremost was Metal Slug Tactics. This is basically a new take on the Metal Slug franchise, which has always been a crazy side-scrolling arcade coin-guzzling game. I literally have memories of pouring $2 coins into a machine and just getting killed on the second screen and going again and again. But I loved something about this game in the old arcade days, and it was the art style. I love the super well cartoonified character design and the action that was on screen at once. But it never actually sat well with me as a side scroller. I think I talked about it when I mentioned Mighty Goose recently, which is like you're doing it all in such a confined space of one screen. You couldn't really have any, room to be tactful. Some might even say tactical. And this is cool. This is basically an isometric spin on it. It looks turn-based. I love those kind of games. It just looks like something that would pop really well on a Switch. And yeah, taking all these little beloved characters that I don't know who they are. I just know there's Headband guy, there's Prisoner of War guy,
them anyway.
There's Girl in a Mech character as well. And I loved how they look. And I just think this looks like a really fun little time killer, and I like how everything's segmented and plops in as little sections of the world open up, and this just looks like a great spin, and any game that can really highlight the old standby little this thing where they just that little movement of characters on
bounce.
The little
animation.
bounce. Everything just looks super sexy in this. They look great. So this looks cool. And I had no idea about it beforehand. I don't know if it had been teased before this.
I think it
quite a
had
while
been,
ago.
Yeah.
I sorry, I was going to say it had been announced, and I'd missed the boat on this one. So to see it for the first time, I was super pumped. And this looks great.
Yeah, I'm into this as well. I have no affinity for the Metal Slug series. I've literally never played a Metal Slug game. And I tend to not like those kinds of games. I love these kinds of games, though. I love tactics games like this and the sort of small area. I don't like those big, sprawling, whatever. This is super cool. Love the art style. Love the vibe. I'm super excited for this.
You would have heard...
I want a cartoon in this animation. It looks sick.
You would have heard this arcade machine if you ever worked through an arcade, because it used to play at full volume demo levels all the time when it didn't have someone playing it. So usually arcade machines would be quiet and you put a coin in and it would be like bling, and it would start up and play. This one used to play in an arcade the full volume of just constantly screaming. You'd be like, whoa. So I do remember that one memory about this game. It was cool. It was so cool.
And I love the boss design at the end of this, that metal snake coming up out of the sand looks super awesome. So this is definitely something high on my anticipated list, but it's not coming out until next year.
Yep.
So we do need to wait a little bit. What we don't need to wait for as long is Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, because this one is launching pretty soon this winter, so that is our summer, so over the next few months. Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon is a new spin. I mean, Shovel Knight has become like Mario, which we didn't kind of just... Yacht Club Games have been working on Shovel Knight games for ages and constantly putting out new expansions to Shovel Knight. And then they put out they're putting out a fighting game, and then they've got this puzzle game as well. It's weird because I have I liked the original Shovel Knight. I never played any of the expansions, but to me, the character doesn't really have any identity, and so it's crazy that it's taken on this we now just make different genres of games with this, in the same way you've got Mario, Dr. Mario, Super Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, that sort of sort of thing. But I think this looks awesome. I don't know what is going on in most of this, but I love these kinds of match 3 puzzle. I mean, look at the graphics. It's so
realistic.
No personality, though.
I love this. I love these sort of the hybrid of puzzle mechanics, fighting mechanics. There seems to be combat, match 3, RPG systems, weapons. There's 10 characters. It feels like a sort of super complicated mobile game, one of those really good puzzle games. And so I'm super keen on this. I think this looks dope.
It's got I think the way it works roughly is kind of like a Crypt of the Necrodancer, where it's as you move, every move you make, the board drops down Tetris style,
right,
and that's the dungeon that's forming around you. So it's basically a combination between Tetris and Crypt of the Necrodancer, which you can see with those little beat pulses and that kind of stuff as well. I played quite a bit of the first Shovel Knight or like the Shovel Knight before the expansions. I would argue, like, I actually think he's got heaps of personality. The story,
does? Okay.
The story's really cool, and like, there's actually quite a lot to it. I think it's less about that single character and more about all the other characters in the world, which we see here. It's like they've done a great Yacht Club Games has done a great job of creating all these like hilarious enemies and allies and stuff like that, and they've basically in a very small amount of game releases created a whole universe around it. And yeah, you see Shovel Knight popping up as like a cameo guest star in heaps of other titles now, and I think that's like a testament to how well they designed their universe around it. So this could be a cool way to bring it all together, maybe a little less reactively than they've had to with the DLC and all the other titles and things like that. So yeah,
it just looks really messy to me. Like,
it does a bit, doesn't it?
The match, whatever they're doing there. It's so cluttered and I think ugly. But
really,
I could see, yeah, like everything's layered over the top of each other, like it's leaving its own squares and stuff. Like like when you look at Bejeweled or something, it's very clear what you're looking at. But here, I'm just like,
I think it would take a few matches,
and
I think a few matches, and you'll be looking through the code, and you'll be like, "I get it."
Yeah, maybe. I think it's just
the way people are playing
mainly
it in this
the sprites bleed out of their own squares over the top of each other when they're pulsing and stuff. So it's just like it becomes a mash every time it pulses. But
yeah, I definitely know what you mean. I think I really like the look of it because I know it's one of those games that's like, you don't know what's going on until you start playing it. And then when you play it, like I said, you just go, okay, now I know what I'm looking at.
It's
but
fine,
your point that everything still overlaps, I totally, like, some of these screens are chaos.
Yeah.
But to me, I think that the chaos is part of the thing that I really like about that. I love puzzle games that do that thing where it's like, you're managing multiple things at once. It reminds me of my favorite DS game, which was Henry Hatsworth in the Puzzling Adventure, where like on the top screen it was a platform, and the bottom screen it was like Tetris Match 3, this falling block thing. And so it's like you had to do both of those things in order to like progress with the game. And yeah, so I love that kind of mashing of genres. So we'll be able to play that one very soon. Gus, what else you like?
The other one that I was really drawn to was Eastward, which is a RPG in the vein of what I want to say is kind of like a Homebound style, which is just very mysterious, very fanciful in its kind of what we're seeing here is a cool little like intro to the trailer, but beyond that is very SNES inspired looking top-down RPG set in again, I wish I knew. It's sort of a post-apocalyptic future. You play as, I believe, like a miner who discovers... John. You play as John the miner who discovers a girl who's maybe like a powerful entity of some sorts, and you then need to help her discover the truth of her origin. That's kind of what was in the blurb, but just looking at the art and the design here, it just looks like someone's gone absolutely like taken modern day design principles to a limited art style of a SNES style adventure game. As I said, kind of homebound Zelda meets Stranger Things, I guess. I got a lot of that vibes from the soundtrack and all that kind of stuff. Beautiful sound, beautiful art. And I will say, like, beautiful lighting. Like, that's some of those modern principles you can take to these older games. I think we saw it in one we looked at a few weeks ago or a month ago, where it's like, you can just add things to those old games art styles that they didn't do back then, which is either, like a little bit of bloom, but also you can add, like, backlighting to a character and more developed... sort of light styles. But then in terms of gameplay, the second half of the trailer here we're seeing is like quite action focused. Like it went from this like slow, methodical move around a town and probably just talk to everyone to what looks like quite an actual like sort of reactive action game, which would be really fun as well. But this just looks stunning, and it's been a long time since I've fallen into an RPG where I've really wanted to like get into the story, and this kind of looks like one that could do that for me, I think, hopefully. I don't know, I fall out of RPGs quickly if the story becomes a bit derivative and a bit kind of like, it's a quest and I'm special and off I go, whereas this looks like a cool spin on that, like a little bit of a twisted tale, and again...
It's a quest and someone else is special.
There you go. This looks groovy.
Chat pointed out that you mean Earthbound, not Homebound, is the name of the game that you're thinking of.
100% right. I'm like, Homebound still sounds like something, though. Is that like a Disney film with a Labrador that goes
Homeward
home?
Bound.
Homeward Bound. That's what I'm thinking of.
That's what you're thinking
Earthbound.
of.
Thank you very much, chat.
It's also got, I saw in some write-ups, it's got a sort of like Last of Us vibe to that sort of like guy, and it meets young child who's special, takes her under the wing, protects her in a post-apocalyptic society. So yeah, I'm super interested in this. It's from Chucklefish publishing it, who published Stardew. Sorry.
Cool.
But but like you said, like I think that the first half I was already into the game when it was just from the art alone of like wander around and figure out this story. But then the action in the second half of the trailer actually looks really cool. So yeah, I'm super excited for this one.
Yeah,
Pete, does this tickle you? Yeah.
This whole like, I feel like I was just like indie immune over watching this. I was like, it all looks like everything feels a bit derivative. Or it's just Tetris again. So it's like, whatever. I'm sure I'll enjoy them when I'm playing them, but no trailer really sung to me. Obviously, this is a beautiful looking game. I hope it's as fun as it looks.
I'll show you something that's not derivative. It's
Tetris
Toem.
Effect. All right.
Toem is not derivative, which is we heard about this during E3 or the Keeley 3. I can't remember. E-Keeley, whatever we decided to call that. It's a hand-drawn adventure game where you set off on an expedition through a Scandinavian-inspired countryside, and you need to take pictures, discover the mystery of the titular toem, and help some people along the way. So photography games are not usually my jam because I find them very difficult. Not difficult. I find it frustrating because it can be like you can take a great picture, but you didn't take the great picture that the game wanted you to take.
The algorithm was looking for.
Yeah, and it's like I'm like, no, this is objectively a phenomenal photo, but because the thing in the center is not. Yeah, exactly.
Negative space never works well with an algorithm. It's like, look at the contrast here, and they're like, you didn't fill the frame with enough of the thing, and you're like, damn it.
Totally. But what I love about this is I love the sort of isometric-y art style, how you spin around these little environments is super cool. But then going into the camera and seeing that environment from a totally different perspective, having depth of field and being able to see from the perspective of this character, I just think is really, really cool. And it feels like one of those games that has tons of charm built into it, and also there's probably something really fucked up hiding in here.
I was just going to say, I really hope there is, because the thing with some of these games that falls to the wayside for me is that they are super charming looking. They might do something really clever like this little spin on the engine that it's running in, but if it's so whimsical that nothing really has any consequence and it's just, everyone is quirky for the sake of being quirky, that's when I feel like, what was the one you played where you again, it was like a Scandinavian, you went to an island.
Welcome to Elk?
Welcome to Elk. Like, it needs something there. It doesn't have to be bad, but it just needs something to hang its like hooks into of like, there's a story here that actually drives me. And again, it's kind of what I'm looking forward to with Eastward. I think it looks like that might have it. I hope this has something there too, other than just like, you are a photographer person. You are, what's your name? Toem, and you're on an adventure. So yeah, I know that sounds negative, but I hope with all these indies, and maybe that's some of it, Pete, it's like they need to have some substance too.
Cool. And then Pete, did you actually have something of this? Yeah, it's cute. And then the final one, which is derivative, but very excited to get Tetris Effect connected on the Switch, because Tetris Effect is phenomenal Tetris, and being able to have this great version of Tetris, like, I loved it in VR. I think it was so good in VR, but I have only played it a handful of times because of VR, and the idea of being able to just have this as something that I can like pull out and smash through some Tetris while I'm watching TV or something. It's got local co-op tunes. It's got online multiplayer. The awesome music, the visuals, I'm so excited for this, because this is probably my favorite version of Tetris, because it just gives me such a good feeling while I'm playing it as well. So I'm super happy that this is coming and relatively soon as well, October 8th.
Yeah, everything was like had a pretty short window to release, which is cool.
Yeah,
everything was like it's a month or a month and a half away.
In a couple of within the next couple of months, Eastward September 16th. Shovel Knight is over summer, so yeah, should be
It was a good showing as well. I reckon. Like they were a good mix of games. Yes, they were all they're indies. They're all going to look a little similar, but and to have that reasonably short release window as well just makes everyone come out of it with a good feeling. I think it was a good showing.
They were saving all the good stuff for Wednesday. The Pokemon Direct.
Yeah, everyone's excited for that one.
I guarantee you more people are excited for that than they were in this.
No, even this 13-year-old who's joined us on the podcast.
Moving on, and over the course of the last week, we have been seeing some Call of Duty leaks pointing to a confirmation of Call of Duty Vanguard as the next COD that's coming out. Set in World War II has been the rumors. Called Vanguard has been the rumors, and this stuff is starting to get confirmed here. We've seen some teasers get dropped to some big COD influencers that are sort of like 5-second little looping videos of look like real footage of like helmets and stuff lying in a tree. Is this real or is this video game? I couldn't quite tell.
I think it's video. It's game.
Either super doctored video or it's CG.
It could be CG, yeah. So this got sent out, but then we also some things got dug up while data mining the last Black Ops Cold War patch. There were some images that came up as well, showing a squad of 4 soldiers fighting an environment sort of with palm trees. There was a British a soldier who was holding at least a British rifle. There was a soldier in a Soviet uniform. There was one, and then there was one who had a uniform and pouches reminiscent of British Commonwealth, New Zealand, or Australian soldiers as well. So there could be an Australian character in there. And the final tease, before we can get to the rest of it, I love the way that this got revealed. It's like a new extraction clip in Warzone, and so you extract, you get out, and then this one ends with a shot. The last person climbing up to the helicopter gets shot, and then it reveals it's a World War II sniper. A woman has sort of just
Russian sniper
taken you out. And so I think that's a great way to tease something that's coming. Is like the game that you play a ton of suddenly has this new ending that you didn't see coming.
How did they roll that video out as well? Like, did they just go like randomly pepper it into a few victories in Warzone during the week, or it's a cool thing to be able to put into your game. It's like people know the beats of how the end of a session of Warzone goes, but to shock people. And the thing about this is like there's only ever 8 people left in the server at this point. Because all the other teams left.
Yeah. No one's watching,
everyone's back playing a new round. It's just the winning team and the team that came second that are still there.
Someone better clip this.
Yeah, exactly.
And God forbid if you finished a solo match, a Battle Royale solo, and you're going up that line and you get taken out, and you're like, oh my God, what was the point? It does raise questions, I guess, for me about the idea of obviously how they're going to incorporate it into Warzone. Like, the new title is going to have to sit alongside this hugely successful or just large lumbering machine that is Warzone currently, and how they're going to work that out. Because already just having Cold War being an 80s set game was like, we can kind of rework the world and we can take a couple of guns from back then and sex them up. But it's like, I don't know if I want to be running around Verdansk with a Lee Enfield like at the same time. It'd be cool, but it's a lot of question marks around Warzone for me.
So there's a lot of question marks around this COD, actually. I've been seeing all the rhetoric that I've been seeing over the last few days with this has been confirming that, like, this is confirmation, basically, that we're in World War II. It also seems to be confirmation that this isn't there was some theory that it would be, like, an alternate future where the Germans won or something, and the war, and then like what happens after that. That doesn't seem to be the case here. But I've seen a lot of people basically go, is this the year that COD kind of just comes out and doesn't hit as hard? Because, like, are they going to stumble with this? There's only so many places you can have wars, and it's like you've got modern warfare, slightly future war, and then going back. And we went back to World War II in like 2017, 2018. So it really hasn't been that long since we've done that. And I do feel like in the last year or two, which would have been probably, before this got commissioned as being this is the version of COD we're doing. I feel like the online feeling is that people prefer modern or future war now rather than going back. People want fancy weird weapons because you know what you're getting when you go back to World War II.
It's also, I would say that Battlefield have put their stamp so heavily on those conflicts. I'm currently playing Battlefield 1 still with some friends, and it is just the pinnacle of, well, that's World War 1, obviously, but Battlefield 5 as well. Like that, what they do, what DICE do with that era and their engine, just like for me feels like that is the epitome of how you do an old conflict war. It just never feels as right playing it in the COD engine for me. So I'm curious about, I would have been interested in maybe an alternate history, because I think that's where COD could maybe lean into what they do, which is a little more bombastic. But yeah, it's weird to then think, are they going to go and kind of alternate with the image? Obviously, we're not showing any of that stuff because it's all still leaks and it's getting pulled. But like, if you hunt that image down, it's like this sort of ragtag bunch of people, in the same way that when Battlefield was launching Battlefield 1, they had some images that are like, oh, were these people in that war? Were these weapons in that war? And it's like they were pushing the envelope ever so slightly. I feel like COD's going to go much harder in that direction because that's what they do.
And the alternate history thing also opens up, like, you can be very liberal with how alternate you go, because you could basically go, the Germans won World War II, and over the course of the next 10 years saw such scientific progress that they now have lasers.
Well, that's what Wolfenstein do, right?
Yes,
totally.
Exactly.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah,
but they could do a more realist version than Wolfenstein that goes totally crazy as well. Man in the High Castle kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think COD and realism tend to go hand in hand.
Sure, but robotic dogs running around is like, no, COD would totally do that.
Yeah, they totally would.
They've done that, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they had like exosuits on dogs or whatever. Like,
I did see people in the chat talking about what wars they would like to see: Call of Duty BC, COD Emu War, Call of Duty Office War, Call of Duty Warm Hugs. And then Dolphin Pan said, "Man, someone needs to start a new war to help the COD developers out." But Spazros did say COD Civil War, which at least would be, I mean, now we need to figure out something where you're not like reloading a musket every single time. But at least it's like going back to something that I feel like say what you have to respect everyone who fought in World War II, but it's like we got to find some new fucking conflicts to. There's so many times I could see D-Day. It's without it just losing its impact, I suppose.
Go watch the Mel Gibson film The Patriot. Top film. That probably is problematic by today's standards, but I remember that being my everything I know about the Civil War. I know through that film.
Probably was problematic. It starred Mel Gibson.
It's interesting. Like, COD are in a hard place because other shooters do more interesting settings better because their engine isn't about shooting a gun from the hip while you're jumping, which COD is about fast pace and like really quick kill time, and like it's a twitchy arcadey shooter as opposed to a Battlefield, which is a bit of a slower, like more of a moving as a unit team kind of shooter.
Rainbow Six, which is like slightly sluggier like controls because it's made to be
tactical as opposed to run and gun and just be 14 to be good at COD. So it's like it's interesting. Like they have to stay between those neurons. I think they have to stay with guns that lean into that gameplay. And so you could never do a Civil War COD. It just would not work. I guess my question is like, why new COD at all? They must have figures that go like they ship new copies, but they're selling a bunch of battle passes and stuff. I'm sure they're making a bunch of money through the existing ecosystem. What about a new campaign brings people back into COD and then they leave again? I mean, I wouldn't have played Cold War if we didn't get given code to play it. And then I played it and thought it was fucking awful as a campaign. But it still feels good because it's COD. But it was like, there was no reason for me to play this. If I want to play Warzone, Warzone's there. If I want to, be invested in COD. I already am. Obviously, there's a marketing campaign. That's like saying, why would Coca-Cola put billboards up? It's like they just need to be in front of eyes, and COD needs to be in front of eyes to, remain at the forefront of the shooting market mind. But I don't know. Maybe there's a different way of doing that than releasing new titles.
So I
new
definitely
setting.
I think from a creative standpoint, for sure. Like, you have Warzone, which, like Gus has said, they kind of backed themselves into a corner with Warzone, because Warzone, they released, it got huge, and then they were like, okay, we need to kind of like keep this on parity with everything else that we're putting out, because we have these battle passes that will cross between games and stuff. So you're bringing in Cold War weapons. You're now going to have to presumably bring in World War II weapons to that thing, keep everything balanced. So you already have this platform that's like, just update that. And then really it's like, I would prefer to just see like, not like, you can even attach it to Warzone, but just like the multiplayer, COD multiplayer, and then just keep releasing maps and big content drops for that. Now, from a financial point of view, best-selling game in 2020, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Second best-selling game in 2020, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Best-selling game in 2019, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. And the second best-selling game in 2018 was Call of Duty Black Ops 4, beaten only by Red Dead Redemption 2. So they kind of always just become the best-selling game of the year, which is why you put them out. But they are in this weird situation where it's like, there's an expectation of, like you said, what a COD game needs to be. And then there's only so many ways that you can release that. There's only so many places you can set that. But yeah, we'll see how this one turns out. I'm not particularly excited to go back to World War II with this, and particularly since in the last year I've gotten massively into COD multiplayer, and the idea of doing multiplayer with those weapons is so much less interesting to me than I even don't like the Cold War weapons. I prefer the weapons from Modern Warfare, but I prefer the feel of Cold War. So yeah, anyway.
Which is, and also just on top of that, for Battlefield to be going to 2042, it's like, okay, so now they seem to go, well, are we going to now try and take the mantle from your historical war settings while you move forward into that sort of quasi future? I don't know.
And Halo coming out as well in like set,
that's actually a real good point, because Halo has been, it was for a long time COD and Halo sitting neck and neck in terms of which style of online multiplayer do you like as a shooter, and I'm excited to go back into some Halo style shooting, but I will be even more excited if the COD experience isn't on par with what I'm used to from COD. I'll just very happily drop that and move across to something else. So I know that's just me, but I wonder if that's the case for a lot of other people.
Yeah, it'll be interesting watching those two sit next to each other again for the next few years, where Halo is a kind of games as service multiplayer, free to all,
free to
system.
All.
So
and COD and Battlefield, both you need to pay to get in.
Yeah. So it's going to be testing that idea of, consistent content drops within the same game, as opposed to buying into a new title that introduces new content that maybe doesn't play well with old content. Halo is a long play kind of game, as opposed to COD's kind of incremental update setup. So yeah, it'll be cool to watch them together and see which one. I mean, COD is always going to do well, but it'll be interesting to see if Halo taps into some of the market and takes some of it away.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable as well. And they also have, not only will they be putting out a bunch of awesome, presumably new Halo maps, but like COD, they have a wealth of games to be able to pull old maps from, remaster those maps, and add them into this like ongoing service. So there is not going to be a lack of content over the next few years for Halo coming out. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I did see Strom, just rounding this out in the chat, Strom55 said, I want to go back to space. And I agree. Like, that's kind of, you go, well, if you, like, Battlefield is doing some future stuff, and Halo is technically, I guess, in space, but it's not. it's not in space. It doesn't. Halo has, from my limited knowledge, never feels like a space game. It feels like Alien
on offering different planets game.
Yeah,
sometimes.
So that would be cool of going to that.
COD has probably had as many space missions as Halo has had. I mean, there's plenty of missions on space stations and on ships in space and stuff in Halo, though.
It's
Whereas,
funny,
just COD had that one, and then the dogfight mission, right, in the Kit Harington one.
Yeah.
It's funny though, just quickly, the way you say that Battlefield obviously had its origins doing really well in 1942. Is that the one I'm saying? It was 1942 was the one everyone played and got really into in PC, and they like established themselves as like a historical shooter, and then Battlefield moved up into your Battlefield 3s and whatever. It's like your modern versions of it, which were really fun, but they know that they can go back to the old historical setting and do really well. For me, COD has always set its flaw at Modern Warfare. It's like they did that so well that then when they started pushing the envelope and doing your kind of futuristic things and things got a little out of hand, for them to reset as they did in 2019 with that version of Modern Warfare, it's like, oh, they're back to doing what they do really well. So it's like leave Battlefield to go back and occasionally touch on going and doing historical shooters. Don't try and compete with that for me. It's like for them, they should constantly just be falling back to current day conflict because that's what they do really well. It's weird. I'm kind of like measuring them on like when they both shoot.
But they don't exist in a vacuum, right? So you're right. They should just own their position in the market.
That's what I mean.
They do tend to do a good job of that, and then they release a World War game and audiences say it's shit. I tend to like them. But like
they never do as well.
They're never the popular ones. It's the next year when the new Modern Warfare comes out that they're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, because it's always like we're going back to World War II, and then the next year it's like we're going back to modern conflicts. Anyway, we're going to find out pretty soon with that because this is, I think, technically the latest that a COD game has not been officially revealed, and it is going to come out presumably in the next 3 months. So to not know what's going on, obviously there's a ton going on in Activision at the moment. You got COVID, you got everything happening at Activision from behind the scenes standpoint. So there's clearly something that's making this drag its heels, but it shouldn't be too long.
You've got that horrible infectious virus. You've got COVID as well. All sorts of things happening there.
Final thing with that is there's also talk of an open beta coming pretty soon as well, which got some people excited. All right, let's move on from Call of Duty to another classic game. And Gus, GTA remasters are coming in hot, according to sources. Rockstar is actively developing remastered versions of Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. All three games are being remastered using Unreal Engine and are going to have a mix of new and old graphics. And one source who claims to have seen a snippet of the games in action said the visuals reminded them of a heavily modded version of a classic GTA title. The UI for the games are being updated too, but will retain the same classic style. No details were shared about the gameplay, but Kotaku has been told that these remastered titles are trying to stay true to the PS2 era GTA games as much as possible. How excited for this are you?
I know why you're asking me. Pete was the one making the little noises.
It's true. Pete, how excited for this are you?
Yeah, pretty excited. They're great games. They're great to go back and play now. They're the kind of games that still feel fun in the hand, like even after all this time. Vice City in particular is a game that like lives in my head constantly. I mean, Gus and I made that postcards from Vice City, and we were just like, we captured hours more footage than we needed to. I think we were like, oh, we'll definitely need this little bit. I'll just wait until sunrise, and we'll go and get a sunrise over the beach on the. It's like they're really fun games to be in. They feel while 4 and particularly 5 became these really expansive games, and San Andreas kind of kicked that off by being this huge beast of a game. 3 and Vice City for me still feel like they have the DNA of 1 and 2, the top down. They still feel like everything's within reach, and it's a little diorama of a city as opposed to a real city. These huge beasts. So there's something really charming about that. 3 is obviously a classic mobster story, and then Scarface in Vice City. So I'm looking forward to playing those two again in particular. San Andreas a little less, because San Andreas had probably is a more beloved game because of what it did for the series in introducing a lot of new systems and, like going to the gym and getting buff and, and being really large. It just, I feel like that might be too much of a slog for me to go back and play through again to do a proper playthrough, whereas you don't need any skills. You don't need there's not any RPG kind of mechanics in 3 and 4 that are going to get in the way of just playing through them in a few sittings. So, yeah.
It's exciting in the
The,
sense that I think as a remaster can be, but I when they talk about it being basically a heavily modded version of it, this is a 20-year-old game, which makes me feel very old when I hear that. And I've gone back and played it maybe every 5 years in some form or another, and as you said, Pete, like really enjoyed that. It just always still just feels fun. I would say the mission structure of something like 3 definitely is really clunky, and it is, you know, there's heaps of tailing missions, there's heaps of carrying of people from A to B, which is all that they were kind of limited to 20 years ago when they made this game. So I do think something like Vice City and then San Andreas is the one where they actually started getting creative with their mission structure, and so I actually think the replayability there is actually is where the replayability will be, because those are the missions that start doing kind of silly and interesting GTA-esque things. I do remember thinking 3 was amazing, but I've gone back and, as I said, when I've played it, been not underwhelmed, but just been, oh yeah, this is where they were learning how to
Much
do
simpler, yeah.
Yeah, really basic.
It was their first 3D one, right?
Like, totally. Yeah. And like, you know, still just a watershed mark for like open world games, and a high watermark for it. And in that sense, it's cool. I don't know. I'd love it to be built in the current GTA 5 engine. Like, go back and rebuild all these games from the ground up. I think that's the only thing, and that's asking way too much. But I'm disappointed being like, oh, okay, they're gonna like go for a heavily modded kind of version of it versus a complete redesign of it. But yeah, I'm in this for Vice City and Vice City alone. Like
we've got some footage of Vice City.
Vice City alone.
Oh no, this is all we've got. Yeah.
There we go. Oh dear.
Busted. I never played San Andreas, so it'll be interesting to see what that is like. I loved Vice City, but I loved 3. 3 holds a very special place in my heart as being one of those games which is like realizing scale within like a sense of space within a game. I think it was just so like I think you're totally right, Steve. Steve. Where did Steve come from?
Steve is shaved Pete.
Where did Steve
Peter's shaved
from?
Brother.
Oh my god! The diorama feeling of the city, but also I remember playing it when I was a kid and just going like, "This place is huge."
Yeah, totally.
And I loved the story of it. It's also, you're so right, like 15 hours to complete 3, 19 hours to do Vice City, and then 30 plus to complete San Andreas. So that was that tipping point, and that's where I'm like, oh god, open world games. This was the beginning and the end. So yeah, super cool. It's also coming to the Switch, which is awesome. PS5, Xbox, and Switch. So you can be playing these handheld. Is probably a little more of a forgiving place to be able to see these games. And they're being developed by Rockstar Dundee, which is a Scottish outpost of Rockstar, and they're also working on the next-gen GTA 5 ports that are due out later this year. Cool. GTA coming soon. Up next, something that is not coming anytime soon, and that is Diablo 4. Then we got news last week that amongst the ongoing disaster that is Activision Blizzard at the moment, that the game director Louis Barriga, lead designer Jesse McCree, and World of Warcraft designer Jonathan LeCraft were all let go from Blizzard last Wednesday, according to 2 sources with knowledge of the move who told Kotaku. And that Blizzard then confirmed this in an email saying that they no longer work for the company. They were allegedly connected to a lot of the heinous shit that's been going on at Activision Blizzard, and so they are out. Now, obviously, Diablo 4 is a pretty troubled game that doesn't have its game director on it. Blizzard have come out and said the thing that, of course, you're going to say, which is there's plenty of talented people there who are just stepping up and taking over. And that was also, they also lose their lead designer, Jesse McCree. And Jesse McCree is who the Overwatch character McCree is named after. So I don't know what they're going to do about McCree in Overwatch or Overwatch 2, but it would be very strange if in Overwatch 2 there is a character called McCree who was named after someone who was fired from the company for being connected to some of this ongoing abuse.
Yeah, I saw a lot of calling for renaming the character in the current version of the game. And it'd be interesting if they might keep McCree under the new moniker in Overwatch 2, but maybe they'll redesign the whole character and give it a new personality as opposed to it being a rename of a character from Overwatch 1 as well. Yeah.
I feel like it's like you can keep the guy,
the character,
yeah.
Like someone in
Just the
chat
name.
said, call him the cowboy, like Jesse. I mean, even Jesse was the guy's name.
That's
so
the guy's
maybe
name.
that's not enough. But just
I'm hearing a lot of call outs for Steve in the chat. Could be a good name.
Call him Steve. That'd be
Call him
great.
Steve.
Oh god, imagine if they called him Steve.
And I'm the cowboy they call Steve. I think it's the right thing to go for not a full redesign, but as you said, like a name change there, just because it's not the fault of the character or the people who love that character, I'm sure, as cosplay, but it's like it will always leave a bad taste in the mouth, I think, from now on if you don't.
Yeah, I'm talking about for 2. It's like, why launch with that character, but in Overwatch current, rename him for sure.
Yeah. But we'll see what's happening there. But I mean, there is a clear out going on there. Hopefully, it's more than just like a surface level. We're just getting rid of these executives, and Bobby Kotick is just sort of consolidating power to hold on to his job. I saw a bunch of reports over the last couple of weeks that like a lot of the moves that Activision Blizzard are taking are about like Bobby Kotick trying to keep his job. Yeah, and that's mainly what it's about. And I was thinking how it's so weird that the reason, and this is a bit of a tangent, but the reason that the world is in such a fucked place at the moment from in possibly every aspect, but like even tie in like global warming, is because the people in power, most people in power are sociopaths, and so they just cannot let go of power. And the idea that Bobby Kotick is worried about losing his job when he got given an over $200 million bonus this year, I'm like it just shows that like I'm not a sociopath. If I got given a $200 million bonus, I would like put my hand up and be like, fire me now. I'm out. I never want to work again.
I can live forever on this.
Like I don't understand this
You're
idea.
Right. It means they're the people who then when they get that much money want to make double that again next year. It's and there's no reason they need to. It's just a power and a climb kind of thing versus I can finally go and live in a shack in the and have a lovely life. It's like no.
And I saw as well part of that is like how the positions that are being created, the titles are just like they are meaningless.
Yeah.
They instead of I don't think they've had a president in a while. There was like the idea of director or president has been changed to like what are the new co-CEO or co see, I don't even know their title. They're heads of Blizzard, but not really.
Yeah, they're yes, I know it's like step down, they're co-leading Blizzard. I can't even remember the title. Yeah, it's Mike and Jen, but they're obviously the co-leadership of Blizzard Entertainment.
Yeah, like what is a co-leader?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that some of the people that they're putting in are like more Activision based than Blizzard based, and sure, but it is about the idea of like that this is, and there has been some thinking that this is an opportunity, as disgusting as it is, for Activision and specifically Kotick to go. Blizzard was always like this thing that we owned, but completely operated by itself. Like we have all our Activision studios, and then Blizzard is kind of like attached to us. And this is a chance to basically take Blizzard and suck it deeper into Activision. By actually going, you're not just your own standalone little like fucking paradise, which apparently it wasn't at all. But yeah, now to consolidate that, and the fact that he can't just let go of power is just so goddamn frustrating. Anyway, this is going to continue to fall out for ages. And then the final thing on the news today is another delay. Thankfully, just one this week from the looks of things. And that is the Life is Strange Remastered Collection. Has been delayed from September 30, 2021. So it's supposed to come out at the end of next month to early 2022. So it's been pushed by a few months, apparently due to the ongoing challenges of the worldwide pandemic. The collection bundles Life is Strange 2, and Life is Strange Before the Storm. But the next game is still scheduled to come out on time. That is Life is Strange True Colors, and that's coming out September 10th.
I'd call it Life is Strange, slightly higher contrast. if we're looking at the remasters and the before and afters, we're at that phase where there's one of those before and afters that are really, I don't know if they're totally necessary. The remaster's necessary, just not the comparison trailer.
I do think there should be a governing body, and I would be fine if we started it, that goes, if you put out a trailer where you have an image and then a line slides over that image and reveals a new image underneath, the image underneath needs to be shockingly different, because there are so many trailers I can think of where like that line goes and I go, hang on a second, what? And I go back and I click and I'm like,
did it get worse?
Yeah, totally. And a lot of times it's like, I guess I can see that, but like it's not obvious when you do it like that. That's a terrible way of doing that. Like it should be clicked on and off. If you want that, flash between things. So my eye is looking at something and then immediately see something else.
Ever since the fact that Halo Remastered had a button to push yourself where you could go from an Xbox original game to an Xbox One X game, like no one's been able to compete with that ever since, and especially not this slidey line that makes you go like, I think I like the previous one.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, I'm splitting hairs.
All right, cool. We are going to be the slidey line overseers, and that is literally all the video game news that happened this week.